here as well as we detail the young Picassos as we paint you a picture on our invisible easel. JD, Rio Ngumoha is definitely in that list, a young footballer that goes maybe beyond the stats. What, in your opinion, makes him what you would call a football Picasso?
You know what I love about all of these teenagers? They're going to paint their own pictures in life, right? They're going to make their own pathways, which I appreciate about them. But I see comparisons in each one of these wonder kids with some of their predecessors. And when I think about Rio, automatically what I see is like a rerun of Raheem Sterling when he first came on. The teenage sensation, the way that he drops his shoulder because of his low center of gravity and his clinical edge in the box. I actually love the decision makings that he's making as a 17-year-old. But his confidence is what strikes me. It's the demand of the football. It's the, I want to impact this game. I want to influence it. His confidence is internal, and it's something that has been inside of him for a long while. I actually spoke to one of his PTs, one of his original coaches, on the way here when I saw the rundown, and DC actually informed me and said to me, I've seen this in him since he was 12 years old. That tells me everything I need to know about who he is as a person, not only in terms of the magnitude and the weight of wearing a shirt like Liverpool, but he's going to grow. He's going to grow. He's going to have so much confidence, hence why he was given an England cap already this year, 17 years old, hence why he's already establishing himself this year as a first-teamer in Liverpool's first team. I really do believe with the absence of someone like Mo Salah leaving that squad, I mean, we've already seen Sadio Mane and Lucho Diaz leave in recent years, and how they're going through a transition, Liverpool. This could be someone to put their hat on, and I will always think back to when that young kid came in with the young perm, the little afro. Raheem Sterling came and lighted up the world almost instantly from day one. I feel like I'm seeing a great rerun.
All right, so, you know, we talked about that football Picasso doesn't always have to do with the numbers. And right now, the numbers, just 10 starts for him, 2 goals and an assist. But he was lightning when he came onto the pitch. We're looking for more from him potentially in year number 2. Under Andoni Iraola, does he get more of an opportunity, do you think, to shine?
Yes, undoubtedly, because...
Especially with, you know, so far what we've seen in the transfer window, there are options for sure, but he's got a lot to say about that, I think.
I think what you're seeing right now is there's a potential for Liverpool to have a new big three. Like we speak about historically the Salahs, the Manes and the Firminos, and they were incredible in terms of their own right. They really created their own legacy for Liverpool and what they did in terms of trophies. But I love Alexander Isak through the middle. I love Hugo Ekitike's ability to turn around and float off of both wings. And you add Rio into the mix in terms of what he brings and just his dynamic ability, his tenacity, and more important, as I spoke about, that ruthlessness. Because there's nothing more intimidating. And I know this as a teenager when you play with grown men and you come onto the pitch. What your coach always tells you is, go and be yourself. That's what's got you this far. He done that from the beginning that he came on as a 16-year-old. He stepped on the pitch. He's never shied away from exactly who he is as a person and what he wants to be as a player. And that, for me, speaks louder volumes about where his career trajectory should go and will go.
Yeah, and he is going to, certainly not, you know, position-wise, doesn't match up exactly with Ekitike, but with him out, it's going to be up to Isak and those attacking options to maybe make up a little bit of what we have seen and go away from Ekitike with that injury. Now we go to John Uzun, who, if you haven't watched this kid play at Eintracht Frankfurt...
Where you been is the better question.
Where have you been? Because I'm not sure I've ever seen a dude that has more of an eye for the corner or the side netting ever. He is so precise in his strikes, and he is definitely the future of Turkish football, probably the future of the Bundesliga as well if he stays there.
I mean, that's a big statement. I mean, there is a Sir Harry Edward Kane that hangs around and hits side nettings on an ease. Julian Alvarez is another one that loves a side netting. Leo Messi will be into the conversation naturally in terms of finding a side netting.
But he's 20 years old.
But you are talking about someone who is 20 years old, and I told you, each one of these young stars are going to be able to paint their own picture, but I'm telling you in terms of the picture that I've seen before and where they're going now in terms of their future. And automatically, the comparisons for me, Pavel Nedved. I used to love watching Pavel Nedved coming off the left wing, coming off the right wing, and looked like he was going with such an element of speed and dynamic behavior in terms of when he's driving, he's committing players, but then always have that cool, calm touch when needed and necessary. That's why he won a Ballon d'Or. That's why he was in the conversations in terms of some of the best players in world football. And I always defer back to what his head coach says. He can go as far as he wants to go. There is a group of young Turkish midfielders and attacking players, and Arda Güler, and of course Kenan Yildiz, who we speak about all the time, who are naturally and rightfully so at the forefront of a lot of people's minds when you talk about young attacking quartets in world football. This guy needs to be in the conversation too, and rightfully so, because the comparison to Nedved is one thing, but his composure, his touch, his coolness, and also his ability to commit a defender is what puts a smile on my face, because I haven't seen a throwback player like him in a long while. I can see what they're going to do, and immediately they're going to make the comparisons to Mesut Ozil because of the German and the Turkish links and all the rest of it. But I want people to really watch what I said about the Pavel Nedved comparison. Go and watch Pavel Nedved in that Juventus shirt back in 02, 03, and look at the way that he commits players. It's very similar ilk. And if he has half the credit Pavel had, he would be a world-class player too.
Yeah, that's a really good shout right there. The only knock, I guess you could say, is that 5 goals, 3 assists in his first 6 matches. He really took the whole Bundesliga by storm at the beginning of the season. Can he continue that for an entire year? Because look at all of these young Turkish players. They're undergoing a bit of a renaissance, albeit, knocked out in the group stage. It was disappointing in the World Cup. But going forward, these are monsters.
I mean, if they can all connect, if they can all grow, and most important, if they can all show chemistry at the same time, Turkey are going to be Turkish delight going forward, because they have the wealth of talent, they have the technical ability. Each one of these guys I've seen win games by themselves. I think if you're asking one of the 3 to defer because they have the most, I would say, adaptability within a game, it's Arda Güler, because he can play a little bit deeper, he can dictate in the middle. I didn't really like him in certain elements when I saw him for Real Madrid, because he was struggling with the half turns, and when there was pressure on his shoulders, sometimes he can make a mistake in possession. But that's natural. That's part of the game. That's part of growth, especially that's part of being in a high pressure situation. But these 3 have got it all. And as a triple threat, I would be scared if I was looking at the future of Europe and I was thinking about where these Turkish players are going to be and what they're going to be doing in terms of both domestically and on the international stage too.
It makes you sort of wonder, how in the world did Turkey not make the knockout stages here in this World Cup?
There's a European Championship coming around that's going to be held in the UK. There's a World Cup that's going to be in Spain and Portugal and Morocco. So I wouldn't be surprised if these 3 are at the center of a lot of the attention and headlines.
Yeah, it's probably going to be their World Cup. All right, well, our last one is Estêvão. And Estêvão for Chelsea is a bit of a revelation, certainly coming over from Palmeiras. 9 goals, 3 assists for the Premier League Giants. But again, didn't get all that many opportunities. But he's trying to return this Brazilian flair, right? This vibe and this passion that we see with so many great Brazilians that have come before him. He's got a great opportunity to do it at Chelsea if he can prove himself into a very stacked squad.
I'm so glad that you put the 2 sentences that deserve to always be in a dictionary next to each other, which is Brazilian and flair. And they almost should be synonymous next to each other when you think about anything about football that needs to be at the heartbeat. And what we've seen, and I think our disappointment in terms of covering this World Cup, especially with Brazil, and I stood on the sideline. I actually covered them in a game and broadcast and had the opportunity to watch them up close, and they missed what their core is, what their identity is, who they are as people. You ask Spain as to why they were victorious, they stuck to their core principles. You ask France as to why they were victorious, they did so well in the World Cup, they stuck to their core principles. I was very shocked in watching this Brazil team, because if I had taken that infamous or that famous gold shirt off them and put any other nation in terms of their jerseys to represent, it could have been anyone. And that's never been a question mark in regards to Brazil. All that being said, Estêvão is one of those anomalies. He is one of those root players that still give me Brazilian vibes anytime I see him pick up the football, and anytime I see him want to go inside and outside, which is very different for a winger in modern football. And like I said, each one of these young players are going to create their own path, and rightfully so. But Estêvão, immediately from the second he came and he made that incredible impact in his debut, to all of the building blocks that I've seen now and watching him showcase, if he can get consistency, he automatically gives me Willian vibes. And that will make people say, okay, well, what about Willian? I want people to recognize that Willian was one of those Brazilians that will only get credit after his career is signed, sealed, and delivered, and we look back on it, because he is one of them, if not the best Brazilian that's ever actually played in the Premier League in terms of what he's done, what he was able to do, and the consistent basis of what he was doing. Yes, Bobby Firmino can enter the conversation. Yes, Gilberto Silva can enter the conversation. But the consistency in what Willian did over a long period of time, and sometimes within this game, we forget consistency is as important as any one season that's fantastic. Estêvão needs to show me consistency, because Chelsea are going to go through a number of different transitions. But if I said to you, Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer and Estêvão behind João Pedro, that sounds like a front three that could cause some real problems in world football. And I love the fact that he's still got so much of his career ahead of him, and he still wants to learn and grow. And Xabi Alonso is the perfect coach for that.
Yeah, and throw like Enzo Fernandez in there as well. I mean, this talk about an embarrassment of attacking riches. Chelsea might be the top of that. But there's a guy, I mean, Neymar, Ronaldinho, like these are the Brazilians that we think about as the all-time greats. Ronaldo, come on, like, is he a guy, though, by the end of it, are we going to have that kind of, will he have that aura around him because of the way that he is able to play? I mean, we talked about the flair. We talked about that ability. He has that innate ability to create and make things happen just like those four guys do.
I mean, those four players, they don't play off tactics, and that's what I tell people. When I looked at Brazil this year, it felt like the natural instincts that's put into Brazilians from the second that they're knee-high around their food, their faith, and their football has been almost taken out of them. I always call it Europeanized. Like, it was almost looking like a European team that wanted to play a tactical system. That's not what any of those players that you just watched on that graphic have grown up with. Whether it's Romario, R9, Ronaldinho, they took us back to who they are. They're expressing themselves. And I'm so glad we started this segment by talking about artists, because that's exactly how I describe each one of those players. They're artists. Estêvão has that component in him. Unfortunately, he plays in Europe. So it's whether or not he can break the mold and remind us all that Brazilians are always going to be at the center of anything flair, football, or faith related.
Those are some football Picassos. But here's the biggest thing going forward. Let these guys do what they do best, right? Let them create. Let them express that flair, and you are going to be rewarded. And we have seen it already with these young players.